I welcome you all to Healthy Living, where it is all about health promotion. Okay, so in times past, a very long time ago, I wanted to gain weight, more concerned about let me gain weight, let me become plump. But knowing what I know now, I'm so grateful for in fact, should I say, having not worked on that. Yes, that is because my weight, according to the World Health Organization, is actually a normal weight, and I don't need to add on any more weight, no, take some out. Yes, so that brings us to the topic for today. The topic for today is obesity and overweight. It's going to be interesting. So kindly stay with me. I'll be right back. Thank you. Thank you so much for staying with me. I welcome you all back. Okay, so let's start. So according to the World Health Organization, overweight and obesity could be defined as abnormal or excessive fat accumulation that may impair your health. That may impair my health if I'm overweight and if I'm obese. It's actually noted, yes, by who, once again, that initially obesity and overweight was an issue in developed countries, yes, due to increased rates of sedentary lifestyle. But records in recent times have shown that it has also increased in low and middle income countries, of which Ghana is part. Beside these countries fighting against infectious disease and undernutrition, there is also an add-on of obesity, overweight, and with this too, increasing the rate of non-communicable disease in these low and middle income countries. So it's something like a double burden disease in these countries. Yes, so we are fighting undernutrition, we are fighting infectious disease, and we are fighting overweight and obesity as well. Okay, so upon talking about obesity and overweight and all of you may ask yourself, when do we say someone is obese and when do we say someone is overweight? Okay, so for adults between the ages of 18 and 64 years old, the World Health Organization defines overweight in an individual with a BMI greater than 25. Yes, and then defines obesity as a BMI greater than 30. Yes, so basically this are the values for it. But even when you take obesity, we have ranks and levels of obesity. Yes, so let's talk about just these two for now. You may ask yourself, how about children? Can children be overweight? Can children be obese? Yes, children can be overweight, and then children could also be obese. For children under 5 years, overweight is weight for height greater than 2 standard deviation above whose child growth standards median. Okay, and then obesity is weight for height greater than 3 standard deviation above whose child growth standard median. Okay, so that is for children below 5 years old. So if you have a child at home, you need to check your child's weight to know whether your child is obese or your child is overweight. Okay, so for children between 5 years and 19 years, overweight is defined as BMI for age greater than 1 standard deviation above whose growth reference median. Obesity is greater than 2 standard deviation above whose growth reference. So you may ask yourself, how do you do all these calculations for your child? Okay, so this is a bit technical. It involves the use of charts and tables, and so it's highly recommended that for you to be able to do this for your child, you can take your child to a hospital. The charts and tables are actually found there, which will be used to measure the weight of your child, so you get to know if your child is obese or your child is overweight or your child has a normal weight. But that of the adults is quite easy to measure. Okay, so the tool that is used to measure that of the adult, people above 18 to 64 years of age, is the BMI. That's the body mass index. Okay, so how do we do this? It's actually your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. Let me give you an example. So for an individual who is, let's say, 60 kg, okay, so I'm going to pick my phone so that we calculate it and then get to understand it better. You can input your weight in the spaces so that you get to know your BMI. Then you apply whatever knowledge we are sharing here today to rate appropriately. Okay, so for an individual with weight 60 kg and height 160 centimeters, remember I said BMI is your weight in kilograms divided by your height in meters squared. Okay, so for an individual with a weight of 60 kg, so we chalk the 60 kg down somewhere, or we can pen it down, of course, and then with a height of 160 cm, converting it to meters, it will become 1.60 meters. Okay, so we do it 60. Okay, so 60 divided by 1.6 meters squared. Okay, so in writing it down, you can just, 60 divided by 1.6 meters squared. So it will now be 60 divided by 1.6 times 1.6. Yes, and then 1.6 and 1.6 is 2.56. So at the end of the day, we'll get something like 60 divided by 2.56. And this individual would have 23.43 kilogram per meter squared, which is the individual's BMI. Okay, and remember, defining overweight early on, I said according to who you are said to be overweight if your BMI is above 25, and then you are said to be obese if your BMI is above 30. So an individual with 23 BMI is normal weight. I hope you get it. Okay, so you can try it for your weight. If you know your height and you know your weight, you can try it so you get to know your status. Then you get to know the things you're supposed to work on. So talking about giving a brief overview of what the BMI is and what overweight is and what obesity is, let's talk about some of the causes of obesity. Why do we end up being obese? So fundamentally, for you to be obese, it means there's an imbalance between your calories consumption and then your calories expenditure. Yes, so in essence, I'm trying to mean at the end of the day, when we calculate the amount of energy that has been gotten from whatever food you have taken, yes, and then we pen that down, and then we calculate the amount of energy that you have used, and we pen that down. After we've done the subtraction, we'll get to realize that you have taken in more than you have used. Yes, so after you have taken in more than you have used, it means the surplus will be stored in your body. So when this process continues for a while, when it continues for some time, that is when it begins to manifest as weight gain, and then you begin to see yourself increase in weight, increase in size. So why am I even talking about this? What is the essence of this discussion? The major essence of this discussion is the consequences that obesity and overweight can lead to. Okay, so according to the World Health Organization, individuals who are overweight and who are obese are at higher risk of cardiovascular disease like heart disease and stroke. Yes, it undergoes a process gradually. For now, if you are overweight, you may think, oh, it's nothing. You will take it for jokes and all of that. But as I am sitting here and as you are sitting there are processes going on in your body which, if care isn't taken, would lead to you becoming hypertensive, and that could lead to myriads of disease, which leads to other cardiovascular disease like the stroke I've mentioned and other heart disease. We'll talk about all those diseases in days to come, but right now I'm trying to let you know that you being overweight and obese increases your risk for cardiovascular disease. Also, you being overweight and obese increases your risk for metabolic disease like diabetes. Yes, diabetes and hypertension are like a brother and sister, or like cousins. Yes, they are very close. When you are hypertensive, you could easily become diabetic, and when you are diabetic, it can lead to hypertension. So they are related. One can lead to the other. Yes, and if that isn't solved, it would also lead to kidney problems sometime in your life to come. So it is very, very important that if you are overweight or if you are obese right now, we work on bringing your weight back to normal. Okay. The third reason this is important is that it increases your risk for musculoskeletal disorders like osteoarthritis. Yes, and this osteoarthritis leads to the degeneration of your joints, which comes with so much pain and other complications. You wouldn't want to have this, trust me. So it's important that we work on the weight. And last but not least, you being overweight or obese increases your risk for cancers like breast cancer, liver cancer, gallbladder cancer, colon cancer, ovarian cancer, endometrial cancer, even that of kidney carcinoma. You being overweight and obese increases your risk for this disease. I hope you are getting it. Okay, a child who is obese, one, will have psychological issues. Imagine you go to school and then you see children of the same age. He sees that everyone has this kind of a normal weight, and then he alone is so fat. Some of the other children may even be teasing him or her, and then that will lead to psychological problems like low self-esteem and all of that. So it's very important that you check the weight of your child, so that your child will end up being obese, for him or her to be psychologically depressed from unnecessary teasing. One other problem that being obese could bring to a child is breathing difficulties. Children who are overweight and obese have breathing difficulties. They easily get tired after doing minimal physical activity. Yes, so it is important that you make sure your child isn't overweight or obese. Children who are overweight have increased risk for fracture, and then they also have markers of cardiovascular disease. According to the World Health Organization, children who are obese as children have higher risk of cardiovascular disease and all the other consequences that I have mentioned early on for adults. They have a higher risk for this disease later on in their adult life. Yes, so it is better you check the weight of your child now to prevent further complications. We can't just talk about the problem and then just leave it like that. We need to find out how to reduce it or solve it. Okay, so how do we reduce overweight and obesity? This involves support from the national level, local level, countries, as in country heads, yes, and authorities. But there is also a role that individuals are supposed to play. Okay, so I'm more concerned about the role you play as an individual. So how do we tackle this problem? So earlier, remember that I said the fundamental cause of obesity is the imbalance between the calories you take in and the calories you lose. Okay, so it means in trying to reduce this overweight and obesity, we should be able to reduce our intake of high fat diets, high sugar diets, and basically any food that increases your calorie levels. Yes, and then we should reduce our physical inactivity. I said physical inactivity. Yes, so by that I'm trying to mean increase your physical activity. So if your work is such that it's more of sedentary, you need to find ways and means of increasing your physical activity by regular exercising. Yes, for a child, you could have your child, in fact, the minimum minutes for a child to be able to exercise in trying to regulate his or her exercise level is 60 minutes per day. That's like 1 hour per day. At least 1 hour per day is enough. And then for an adult, remember in my first video, I mentioned that according to the World Health Organization, the minimum minutes of exercise is 150 minutes per week. Yes, so you divide this among the number of days you have per week, and you in fact you schedule the time such that at the end of every week you would have had 150 minutes of physical activity. These are the two major ways that we could actually balance our calorie intake and then our calorie loss. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for staying with me. Kindly share so other people could benefit from this video as well. I'll see you next time. Until then, Bye.